100 years, it's been the quiet hero of our movie nights. I'm talking about that little line of text at the bottom of the screen. But right now, as we speak, that text is at the very center of a huge but silent revolution in how we all understand media, culture, and really each other.
And hey, this isn't just some random trend. There's a whole academic field, audiovisual translation, that's been digging into this for decades. And as one researcher puts it, subtitling is at a crucial juncture, kind of caught in that tug of war between its past and its future. It's wild to think about how something that seems so simple, just translating dialogue, has become this complex battleground of ideas.
So what is this battle, really? What are these two opposing forces fighting for control over those little words on your screen? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down right now. To really get what's happening now, we've got to rewind and look at how things used to be. For most of its life, professional subtitling had one main goal: be invisible. Just don't be noticed. For decades, this whole process was, well, a grind. The source material calls it laboriously sequential. I mean, professionals had to transcribe everything, figure out the true meaning, time the subtitles to pop up and disappear at the exact right second, that's called spotting, and then edit the whole thing. It was all done by trained experts, and in the early days, they were working with these clunky, time-coded VHS tapes. Not easy stuff.
And this whole process was locked down by a set of super rigid, basically unbreakable rules. You could only have 2 lines of text max. There was a strict character limit. Each subtitle could only be on screen for about 1 to 6 seconds, and it had to be a clean, simple font, usually white or yellow, and stuck right at the bottom. The entire goal was to make it so smooth, so seamless, you barely knew you were reading. You weren't supposed to notice the subtitles, you were just supposed to get the story.
And the philosophy driving all these rules, it can be boiled down to one key idea: domestication. The whole job of the professional subtitler was to make foreign stuff feel, well, not so foreign. They'd sand down the cultural rough edges, swap out a local joke for one you'd understand. Comfort and readability were everything.
But then, technology came along, and it didn't just bend the rules. Oh no, it completely shattered them.
And this timeline just shows you how fast it all happened. We rocketed from those clunky VHS tapes in the 80s to this becoming a real field of study in the 90s. But the real explosion, the big bang for subtitling, was the early 2000s. Digitization and the internet basically handed the keys to the public. All of a sudden, anyone could do it. This was huge for anime fans, who just started making their own subtitles for shows you couldn't get anywhere else.
And this gave birth to a whole new kind of creator, what the research calls a prosumer. It's this idea that you're not just a passive consumer anymore, just watching stuff. You're also an active producer, shaping how other people see and understand that media. Suddenly, that wall between the professionals and the audience just crumbled.
And this new army of prosumers didn't just copy the pros, they created something completely different. This was the birth of a vibrant, creative, and sometimes chaotic new world, fan subtitling, or as it's known, fan subbing.
This table just lays it all out perfectly. It's like 2 totally different worlds. Where the pros wanted you to have a seamless experience, the fans wanted to give you cultural context. The pros domesticated the content, but the fans wanted to foreignize it. They wanted to keep all the unique cultural flavor of the original. Their style wasn't neutral, it was expressive, loud, and proud. This wasn't a job for them, it was pure passion.
And don't think this was just random chaos. The research is clear. Fan suppers were making a very conscious choice. They were breaking the old rules because they had their own deeply held principles. They truly believed that the old professional way was actually erasing too much of the original culture.
So they built a whole new toolkit. They started using different colors and fonts to show who was talking. They'd add little translator's notes on screen to explain a cultural joke. They moved text all over the frame. They broke literally every rule of invisibility because, well, their goal wasn't to be invisible. It was to be your guide. So the heart of this whole conflict really comes down to something researchers call extra-linguistic cultural references, or ECRs. It's a fancy term, but it just means all the little bits of culture, like specific customs, foods, or historical jokes that just don't have a simple, direct translation.
And right here is where you see the 2 philosophies clash head-on. A professional, focused on making things flow smoothly, might just cut that reference or swap it for something familiar. But a fan subber who cares more about authenticity would keep the original word and then add a little note to explain what it means. For them, teaching you something new was a feature, not a bug.
So, where does all this clashing and rule-breaking leave us? Well, it's kicked open the door to a whole new chapter for subtitling, and it's raising some pretty big questions about the future.
At this point, you're probably asking, okay, so who's right? Is it the pros with their clean and visible style, or the passionate fans with their colorful, educational approach? But here's the twist. The research suggests that's actually the wrong question. This isn't about one side being right and the other being wrong. The most important thing here is that this whole conflict has blown up the possibilities for what subtitling can even be. The debate itself has made everyone rethink what subtitles are even for. So what we have now are two powerful philosophies that exist at the same time. Think of it like two parallel tracks. You've got domestication, which is all about easy access. And then you have foreignization, which is all about cultural learning. But the coolest part? Now we're seeing them cross over. You might be watching a huge Netflix show, and suddenly you'll see a classic fan sub-style note pop up to explain a joke. That's the professional world borrowing from the fan world's playbook. So here's the takeaway for you. The next time you switch on subtitles, really look at them. Ask yourself, are these subtitles trying to just blend into the background, or are they actively trying to teach me something with creative fonts or little notes? Are they domesticating or are they foreignizing? Because ultimately, this silent revolution isn't just about words on a screen. By putting the power of translation into more hands than ever before, it's created what the research calls a thrilling prospect. The chance to reimagine subtitling, to turn it from a simple tool into a powerful, dynamic bridge between cultures. So the next time you see those words, remember the revolution that's happening right there. It's not just translation anymore. It's a conversation between worlds.